Yeah, that shouldn't be a thing, should it? He's dead. Nice try. We're going to break down how the sniper works. It's min-maxed down to the T, so stay tuned. Hey, it's Dan, and welcome back to Unified Gaming. It's finally here, the Botard. It is such a disgusting sniper. It hits stupidly hard, and yeah, it's just absolutely crazy. It's been min-maxed down to the T. I've basically done what I could testing wise with a friend of mine on the PTS. We went on there for about 2 hours. He's called Nath. Like, a massive thank you for him, because without him doing that we wouldn't have got to this kind of build here. I've tested popular kind of set creations, what people would run, and well, I found the set combination and all the milestones and everything that you would have to piece together to get the perfect sniper. The sniper that hits so hard there's no counterplay to it. And I'm going to share that with you today, in the hope that Zoz will see this video and might make adjustments in the future. And if they don't, well, you can enjoy the build because it's incredibly fun to play. And if you haven't guessed it, this channel is all about helping you get better with next level builds, guides and gameplay. So why not start improving today by subscribing and turn on the bell so you don't miss anything. Now let's look at the Botard. As I've said already, I've tested so many things, and when you hear the build, you're going to be like, that doesn't sound right, that doesn't sound impressive. But the proof is in the pudding. As you've seen in the gameplay throughout this video, it hits stupidly hard time and time again, regardless of how tanky the target is. It might not necessarily have the highest kind of stat sheets, but all our damage comes from other sources, so do pay close attention. For the race and the Mundus stone, I tested all of them. I found the best gear combination. I then tested the races a second time, and then the Mundus stones a second time, and I did it a third time just to be sure. And we've basically found the best race combination with the best Mundus combination, and that was actually an Orc with the Shadow Mundus. If you're trying to min-max your damage, an Orc with the Shadow Mundus gives you the most damage possible. Because of that, Dark Elf is close second because it's almost identical to Orc. So if you're new to the sniper or you want just an easier sniper to play, Dark Elf is the best for it, in all honesty. Orc is slightly more damage, like it's so minor you won't notice it. Khajiit though actually had quite a bit less damage than you would think. It was missing like 600 to 1000 per shot when you're fully buffed up, which is really noticeable. So for me, you want to go as a Dark Elf or an Orc with the Shadow Mundus to min-max that damage. As I've said already, I've tested every part of this build extensively. The best food that I found to make it viable as well as hit stupidly hard was Aidail takeaway broth. The extra stamina means we hit harder, but the recovery just makes it a bit easier to play the build, and so is the health. Having the extra health just means that if we make a mistake, we've got a chance of staying alive still, which, as you see, I stay alive a lot longer than I probably should, considering how squishy I actually am. So for me, Aidail is the best. You could substitute this though for Lava Foot for more damage and sustain, but you're a bit squishier, or you could use Tri-Stat food and have just more cloaking ability, which makes it a bit easier to play, with just Stam Sustain is going to be harder, so you're going to have to use those Stam Sustain skills that we have to help offset that. As for the potions, Tri-Stat potions are golden. They are like the best thing you can have on this build. If you don't have a good supply on them, and you don't use them regularly, you will die. You need to use them regularly as like kind of all no buttons, or when you kind of need that bit of extra sustain, extra kind of oomph, just to get that final kill. So Tri-Stat potions are the best for this. So the main part that you need to really take from this build is that the skills and the armor must be put together correctly, or it just won't work. I've tested so many options, so just trust that this is the best combination, okay? For the skills, you want to run Lethal Arrow. The poison status effect can proc on the first hit, and it will then do the damage too, which means you actually get more burst overall. The extra range on the other skill, although it's really nice, I often follow up Silver Shards, and well, I have to be closer than the extra range is, so I'm not going to be able to use Silver Shards. So it's not worth running that other morph. You get less damage, and you have to be further away, so you can't use a follow-up skill. It's just harder to use. So Lethal Arrow is the main, obviously spammable of this build with Silver Shards. Another reason why we slot Silver Shards is because it gives us extra weapon damage due to the Fighter Guild's passives. And it's also an AoE, which means we can actually clear flags with this too. So we can go snipe Silver Shards, and clear flags in Cyrodiil by ourselves, which is really helpful. I then run Camouflage Hunter, and I don't actually use this skill at all often, if ever. What this does though is it gives you minor berserk if you attack from behind the target. So basically like any 180 from behind the target, which generally you're going to get this. And I've tested this extensively. When the snipe lands, if minor berserk procs, it would also apply the berserk damage on the first snipe. So that's really helpful. So it's just like a passive damage buff. So definitely slot this skill. Plus it gives you extra weapon damage, so why wouldn't you? We then run Cloak, obviously, Shadowy Disguise, so we can force the crit, which is just phenomenal. And the important part, which lots of people forget, is in the Assassination skill line on a Nightblade, you have a passive called Hemorrhage. And basically, it gives you 10% critical damage if you have one of these skills slotted from the skill line. So you have a few options as to what you do. I personally go with Incapacitating Strike as my ultimate, and then I run an extra Fighter's Guild ability just for more weapon damage, because I don't have to cast it, it's just sat there passively. You could swap it around and go with Piercing Mark though, and then run Dawnbreaker, and again that works absolutely fine. So those are some options there. But that front bar loadout, Lethal Arrow, Cloak, Silver Shard, Camouflage Hunter, one Assassination skill, plus another Fighter's Guild skill, gives you the most damage on that bar. There's no better skill setup for it. On the back bar, to min-max it, you want to run Deep Thoughts, which will fix all of your sustain issues on the whole. If you don't have that, run Leeching Strikes instead. You then want to have Raced Against Time or Channeled Deceleration. That's for the minor force, which gives us more critical damage from stealth, which is what we want. Channeled Deceleration means it's easier to snipe because you can keep the buff on longer so you don't have to maintain it. Raced Against Time, however, is instant, so you can just push the button and then snipe. So there's pros and cons to both. We then use Rally as our kind of burst heal, but it's mainly there for the weapon damage proc, Major Brutality. I then add on Concealed Weapon, which is an unusual one to put on, but the extra sneak speed is really helpful. We never use this, but it just means we can move around a bit quicker and chase people. I then use Temporal Guard, which obviously gives us more mitigation on the back bar. If you don't have that though, you could run Soul Tether as a good oh no button. And the final skill is Balance, which is incredibly good. This helps proc one of our sets, which is Titan Ball. If you don't have Balance, run a skill of your choosing here. And next patch in the Vampire changes, you could swap this for the Vampire Drain Health and keep your Titan Ball always active, so it's really good. So this skill loadout works really well because we get crits always from Cloak, we stack loads of weapon damage via Fighter's Guild, and we get loads of percentage critical damage bonuses as well as our Mundus Stone. So what that means is we get 113% critical damage done, which is just crazy. It means our crits are like stupidly high. So when we get 15, 16k snipe tooltips and we got basically over double damage on that, you see why we hit so hard. It's just disgusting. I don't usually mention passives in my build videos because they're pretty self-explanatory. But there's one passive that is incredibly valuable to get. I do get it. If you go to the Lagerda main passives in the Weld skill line, there's a passive called Improved Hiding. And what this does is reduce the cost of your sneak. Now this can be a bit awkward to level up. It can be like, oh. But I do have a video on my channel showing you how to level it up really easy with very little effort. It will take you about 7 to 14 days roughly to kind of do this, but it takes you 5 minutes a day. And you get to pretty much the level that you need it. This will reduce your sneak cost by up to 40%, which is absolutely huge. It means you can sneak around more and have more stamina to snipe people. And as you'll see in my current build, I do run out of stamina because I don't have these passives just yet. So these really help. What makes this build even better is that we're also a vampire on this build. Being a vampire gives us access to Darkstalker, and I was using this build without the Darkstalker passive, and as soon as I put this on, this was a game changer. Like, it's so good. And next patch you do want to get this passive as well. Just to be able to sneak at full speed is invaluable on the sniper, so definitely get this passive. Be a vampire, it's worth the drawbacks, honestly. The recovery is also nice, and the undeath passive can be helpful too, but just the sneak passive alone makes this like best in slot. You must run a vampire. I hope you're enjoying the video, but I just want to take a second just to remind people that if you do enjoy this video and you want to see more ESO content from us as we post regularly, then obviously consider liking, sharing the video, commenting, and make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out. Oh, and don't forget to turn on the bell. As I've said already, I've tested everything and this is kind of the best setup that I've found. I've made some few tweaks and a few adjustments for the next patch, but for the current patch, this is what you want to run just for sheer damage and just survivability and just ease of play. As you've already heard, we use Titanborn because it's just such a great set. For the monster set though, we pair this with one Krag and one Veladreth. You could swap Veladreth for Kina or for Balorg if you like, but one Krag and one weapon damage piece just gives you most damage overall. And you ideally want to have one of them heavy and one of them light, so you get your Undaunted passives just for a bit more max stamina, thus you hit a tiny bit harder. That's the level of min-maxing we've done on this build. You then want all stamina glyphs on there. You could drop a little bit of damage for Prismatic just to have some extra cloak in, which makes it a bit easier to play. But you don't have to do it, that's just optional. For the Titanborn, we run 3 Titanborn jewellery. You want them at least purple and infused jewellery traits. Gold will give you even more damage, it's like a big damage difference there, so do try and get that gold if you can. I then run 2 body pieces just for ease of access, it's easier to set up. And again, you want them to be Divines because you're really pushing that Mundus stone boost. And our second set is New Moon Acolyte. That gave me the most consistent damage overall based on a range of targets from different resistances and so on and buffs on. New Moon Acolyte, you want to have 3 body pieces, all Divines, and you want all max stamina to push the damage as high as it can get. You then want a bow, and what makes it really unusual is that you need to have this sharpened. We just don't hit the penetration cap against PvP targets. And also from testing, although Nirnhund gave me a really nice looking stat page, I was like, oh, this looks absolutely like tasty. It actually gave me less damage on the target, and that's not what we want. The penetration on Sharpened was just more damage than Nirnhund, and so go with Sharpened, it's also easier to get. So in case you've missed the kind of main damage sets, it's 1 Kina, or Veladreth or Balorg, plus 1 Krag, New Moon and Titanborn. This frees up our back bar to run whatever you want. I run Blessma Potentes, Greatsword, just because it's extra damage reduction. It must be a 2H however, so you can get your rally buff. That's the gear loadout there. I've got another version for next patch which hits even harder than this one because of the changes of the vampire and so on. So again, I've min-maxed it for the next patch already. But for the current patch, this is the hardest hitting setup that I found thus far. Before we continue, I want to say a massive thank you to the people on Patreon. Like literally, they're donating, they're supporting the channel. It really means a lot. It really helps kind of just with me being able to work towards YouTube as a kind of part-time or full-time job in the future, making more videos for you guys. Like that's what I'd really love to do. So obviously their support is really helping me towards that goal. And also I want to say a big thank you to the people who just like and comment on the video. Like and comment and share really helps. So if you want to support me, obviously donate on Patreon, like, share, comment, all that stuff really helps. So thank you to all of those people doing that. As for that CP guys, I've min-maxed the CP down to the T. So you really want to just copy the CP loadout. The one thing I will say is if you sneak a lot and you find it hard to pick targets, I would definitely consider putting lots and lots of points into the Shade. I have 63 in there just for extra sneak cost reduction because it's really helpful. That plus obviously your passives from Legerdemain means sneaking is really cheap. Now what I do in all of my videos, as you know from the channel, is I like to go through tips, tricks, combos, how to stay alive just to make it easier for you guys, okay? So for me, the big thing about playing the bow gank properly, especially in CP Cyrodiil, is picking the right target. 30k health is just a bit too high to kill quickly. If we're in pairs however, then yeah, by all means go for it, okay? So that's just a big kind of just disclaimer. If we're in no CP, you find about 25k health gets quite tough to kill them. You still can, but it's just a bit harder than it would be. As for doing damage on the front bar, you need to make sure that you're buffed up first. So I would always make sure that I put my rally buff on, and then I cast Race Against Time or Channel Deceleration, so I've got my minor force buff ready for when I need it. I'll then move into position, and I'd always suggest going near an object, or it sounds quite strange, just in the middle of open, like in the middle of nowhere, because people always go to objects and stuff to kind of kite, so that's where they're going to expect you to be. If you're in the middle of nowhere, they're not going to expect you to sit there, so just little tip there. And then what I would do is I'd go So I'd pull back so my snipe icon is ready, but my silver shard isn't quite. I'll then go snipe, snipe, cloak, silver shard. What will happen is that the first snipe will land and crit. You will then be able to get the second snipe in the air while silver shard is travelling and then hit cloak a second time, which will then make those crit too. So that's how you do like the most amount of burst damage instantly at range. If they have less than 25k health, they're pretty much dead in CP. If they have less than say 23k health in no CP, they're dead. So yeah, it's pretty nasty. Another good combo that I use to kind of follow up if they're not dead, if they're a bit tankier, or I get rushed by a target and I can't get 2 snipes in a row, is go and snipe, light attack, silver shard. This hits really hard because snipe and silver shard land at the same time, so you basically have like 25k, 30k tooltip damage hit somebody, and you got 113% critical damage. It's going to absolutely melt them. And you find 9 times out of 10 you'll do half the health bar, if not most of it, and then they have to go defensive and you can cloak away and escape. So sometimes a good offense is their best form of defense, and in their event they try to kill you, what you want to do is go snipe into Incap or Dawnbreaker, followed by a light attack silver shard. That will one-shot somebody at point blank pretty much most of the time, as you've seen in the footage. It's how I get out of it's like my get out of jail combo, because it hits so hard they either go defensive or they get killed. And if they don't do any of those two things, you just kill them. Like if they happen to survive, you just do a roll dodge, silver shard again, and they're dead because you're so close. They can't really dodge roll it quick enough. So yeah, it's just really nasty. But those are like the main offensive combos to really help you out. The one thing I will say is try and be behind the target just to proc that minor berserk if you can. Another good way to just stay alive is keeping your resources topped up. So between kills and stuff, you have deep thoughts, which is a really good way to recover resources between fights. But if you're in the middle of battle, that's why we have tri-stat potions. If you're out of magicka and you're low on stamina, you will die if somebody comes up to you because you just can't roll dodge or cloak away. So I find that if my magicka pool runs out, I need to be very mindful of where I position myself and make sure I've got somewhere like a rock or a tree or a corner just to run behind or cloak behind, roll dodge behind if I can. If I'm low on stamina, so less than say 30% stamina, I've got maybe 1 roll dodge left and I would end up dying if I'm not careful. So I'd really recommend making sure that you're just paying attention to your resource balls to stay alive. If in the event someone comes up to you and they kind of gap closes, they rush you, you go for that offensive combo to try and kill them first, because that will actually keep you alive a lot longer than just trying to roll dodge around. If you're low on resources though and you can't do that offensive combo, potion, roll dodge, cloak. That will get you away from most of them a lot of the time. And what I find that works really well is you want to kind of make it like an L shape. So you want to roll dodge through them, cloak, and then turn left. As you do this, switch to your back bar, so that way you get your concealed weapon speed boost, which actually makes a big difference. And that means you can just get away a bit more than you would normally. Another big tip is when you're moving around on this build, if you push cloak and then tap sneak whilst you've pushed the cloak skill, it will enter you into sneak and you'll transition from stealth invisibility into sneak, so you still can't be detected unless they're on top of you. So that's just a really good way just to kind of stay hidden from people. But that's kind of the main tips and tricks and kind of the things that I want to share with you guys just to help. As I've said, I've gone through this build and I've actually made it better for the next patch based on the changes. So this build is disgusting for Harrowstorm. The build still works in Greymore, but it hits just as hard. There's just a slightly better damagey setup because of the vampire changes. But with that said guys, I am going to wrap the video up. It's long enough as it is, just lots of information. As I've said, I've tested this loads and loads. You will get loads of hate mail. I expect lots of negative comments on this video, sadly, because people don't want to see that. But what I want this video to do, as I've said at the start, is just address an issue that Zoz can then see and go, look, actually that is probably not okay, and maybe they will adjust Snipe in the future, because currently this is just absolutely disgusting. If you did like the video, obviously like, comment, share. But with that said guys, I am going to wrap the video up here, so I will catch you in the next one. Thanks for watching, take care, and bye!